Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. Time to talk about the AFC East. I got Mr. Logical with me. And I'm 2-5. Thank you, everybody, for the love, the views, the likes. Like, review, subscribe. It's all free. Don't make me do it.
Get the 20,000 views.
That's right.
Make them do it to you, meatballs.
Do it to you, meatballs. You know what I'm saying? That's what we on this year. You know what I'm saying?
Trying to get the 20,000 views. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends. Share it in your sports groups.
Yes.
Share it anywhere you can. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Like us at Fear My Wrath on Twitter. Instagram at Sports Reports is Ordered with the underscores. You see ML Dub 25.
Yeah, tell your granddaddy.
We got football popping off. We got college football, NBA training camp starting up. Baseball's about to get into their playoff push. We about to have a lot of sports going on over the next few months. So let's get these numbers up. We got rookie numbers right now. We try and get to that advanced level. So everybody share it.
Tell your granddaddy I'm rocking the grays to represent your granddaddy.
Yeah, I got like 1,100 down here too. What's good?
You know what I'm saying? What's happening? So, Sports Reports is ordered. It's that time of show. Time to get it off our chest. I'm going to take the lead on this one because I've been frustrated. I'm sorry for those of you who have been watching 2-5 Daily because I brought this up the other day, but I'm still mad. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to start this off and I'm going to ask Mr. Logical a couple of questions. And then when he answers my questions, if he can, then we'll see, why I'm frustrated. So, Mr. Logical, NFL starting up soon, right?
Correct.
Do you know what the first Sunday night game is?
I don't know, but I'm gonna say some. Maybe let's go. Is it ridiculous?
No, it's the Giants and the Cowboys.
Come on, man. Do we have to do this all the time? Okay,
hold on. What is the first Monday night game of the year? I know you know that one.
Is it Eagles Commanders?
No. It's Buffalo at East Rutherford. Yes. You know what I mean? So this is how the NFL does. Last one, I promise. This is the last pop quiz. What are the NBA opening night games?
I got Lakers at Denver.
Okay, one for one.
This is off the top of the dome too. Golden State at Sacramento.
It's Golden State at Phoenix.
Okay.
So just so y'all know out there, so partly I did that just so y'all know that we don't be rehearsing. This is authentic. Second of all, because I'm mad because while college football came out here with Notre Dame and Navy, USC and San Jose State, Jacksonville State and UTEP, Vanderbilt in Hawaii to start off the season. Now, the reason why it makes me so mad is because all summer long we've been talking about Coach Prime, what Colorado going to do? And we couldn't even get Coach Prime on the opening night of college football. On top of that, I understand that Caleb Williams won the Heisman. He's probably going to win it again this year. But San Jose State, USC could have played Stanford or somebody or Cal or some kind of conference game. It didn't even have to be a big out-of-conference game. This week in week 1, on Thursday night, we got Florida and Utah. We got Nebraska and Minnesota. On Saturday, we got West Virginia at Penn State. We got Tennessee and Virginia playing in Nashville. We got Ohio State at Indiana. You mean to tell me not one of those games could have went on week 0 to save me from watching Notre Dame beat Navy 42-3 and then get stuck with Ohio and San Diego State and then get stuck with Louisiana Tech and Florida International? You know what I mean? So college football, this is a note to self. You did the right thing by adding the playoff. Next year we're going to go to the 12-team playoff. But you got to take advantage of these weekends to showcase because in a couple of weeks, the NFL is going to dominate the ratings. They're going to dominate the talk. So this was your chance to get out in front of everything with your Coach Prime and whoever else shove it down everybody's throat and say college football is here. Instead of all we got is, oh, they don't play preseason, but this is a preseason game.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah.
College football they have the luxury of being, I equate it to this. Back in our younger days, a couple of decades back, we probably went out 2 or 3 nights a week. Wednesday night was ladies' night.
Right.
If you're stateside, Thursday night was college night. And
Right.
everybody was going to go out Friday and Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
College football used this last week like a college night. Like everybody coming out Thursday because they know we want football on Sunday anyway. So they're like, listen, we can sprinkle a little bit in here. But they know, like, we don't have to do anything different. We don't have to change the mold. It's like, we got Saturday. We are wetting everybody's whistle for Sunday NFL and Monday Night Football. Granted, yeah, the NFL has Thursday Night Football, and we're kind of figuring that part out.
Chiefs Lions, by the way.
That's a good matchup. But they know, listen, we're going to flood you with every bit of college football that we can fill in from noon till about midnight, 1 a.m. East. Because
Well,
you get about 12, 13 hours.
problem. But that was the problem. Notre Dame and Navy started about 2:30 Eastern. And then all these other games like Jacksonville State, UTEP, all that was going on in the middle of all that. And then USC, with the Heisman Trophy winner, as I like to say, the reigning, defending Heisman Trophy recipient, played on the Pac-12 network, which not even everybody has access to. You know what I mean? Like, what you doing, Fox?
Trying to get that check. Listen, you're not sprinkling out all these hundreds of millions of dollars to do things for free. Like, I was sprinkling this money, I had to get the money on my return. So, like, yeah. So they figured it out. They'll get it together.
Yeah, I know it's coming, but I was just upset because I was excited to watch some football.
They give you a little tease. They know you're gonna watch. They know, however you're gonna watch. You're gonna stream it on your phone or your iPad, your laptop. They know you're gonna watch.
It reminded me when I was watching Bill Cosby one time, and his dad was talking about how he saw this dancer, and he was like, "She didn't have to get naked. She came out there. She gave you a little shoulder, then she took it on back." Like, that's how I felt.
Yeah, because you're gonna be sitting right in front of the TV on Saturday like this, waiting on it to start. They know what they're doing. Speaking of people who know what they're doing, we are fans of the sport. We are prognosticators. We are pundits. We are working our way into the media, the sports media realm. We are not experts. We just do our research. We have good, eloquent conversation, and we talk about sports. I am not claiming to be a GM. So I'm sick of everybody on these sports groups and on these forums acting like GMs when they get the news about a sports move. Let the people who make these deals make the deal and then you figure it out. Don't try to read into it. And we're going to talk about the Trey Lance trade, but everything, NBA deals, NBA trades, everybody's an expert. We read on our sports blogs like, yo, we should have kept him. We should have got rid of him. We should trade this many picks to go get Chris Jones. Like, stop it. None of that's happening. Stop playing fantasy football on Facebook. Like, just let it play out. Get your facts. Have your conversation about it. Leave your feelings outside. We want the facts of the situation. And you can break down how you feel about it. I get that. But your feelings can't be the thing up front. Like, you can't just run off on emotion every single time there's a deal made that you don't like or you think another deal should have been made. Like, cut it out. Calm down. Let the sports play out. Let the people talk about it. Let the coaches talk about how they felt about the trade. Let the player who got traded talk about the trade. Let the GM come on and give a statement. But please stop screaming and talking about, I would have done this or this move puts us over the top. Listen, the art of good business is both people got to walk away unhappy. So most trades in the initial conversation before anything happens, there's a bunch of people who just made enough of a move to where they didn't get everything they wanted, but they didn't lose either. That's it. That's all we know. With any trade, any deal, any trade proposal, any contract signing, any extension, it's a matter of some people gave up a little bit, another side gave up a little bit. This is a deal we have. Now we got to see it play out. You can't just get this information and automatically have the outcome the day of with your thumbs. Like, just cut it out. Let it play out. Have the conversations about it. Be authentic in your conversation. Be open to hearing different ideas. But just stop getting on these forums, just bloviating and screaming when you don't have the facts. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, the facts are the Dallas Cowboys made out like bandits. You know, they came out here and dropped the 4th round draft pick off on a guy that got drafted number 3 in the 2021 NFL draft. One, Mr. Trey Lance, Mr. Logical Go.
I'm not sure if, like I said, I know I just talked about everyone just like waiting everything out. He had to get out of San Francisco because I don't feel like there was a real spot for him, because you had Brock Purdy who came in hot. Like, people remember Drew Bledsoe was a starter, jogged to the sideline, got blasted, lung collapse. Tom Brady comes in, never gets a job back. AFC Championship game, Tom Brady gets hurt against Pittsburgh. Drew Bledsoe gets him to the Super Bowl. And Drew Bledsoe thought he was going to be the starter for the Super Bowl after that game. And they were like, no, we're going with Tom. And, the rest is history. Tom won that game. Drew Bledsoe shipped off to, I believe, Buffalo or Dallas after that. I'm not sure. One of those locations, but he was out of New England after that. And that happens. So Trey knew that there's no way that he was going to be able to jump Sam Darnold, who was going to be consistent, 60-plus starts, pretty much a mediocre run, but he has some leverage in the fact that he has experience. You're going to get into the stats about how many passes Trey Lance has thrown, so I don't want to step on your toes there. So Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy misses a couple of games. Sam Darnold will come in and be locked in, good to go for a couple of games, and then you bring Brock Purdy back. You can't do anything with Trey just sitting there when you can get something for him, or just like Kyle Shanahan said, just out of respect, you want to give him an opportunity somewhere else. And that's what they did.
Yeah, so so I was trying to figure out, initially why Dallas would do this, because I mean, not that they have the best quarterbacks in the world or anything like that, but Trey Lance didn't come in to take Dak's job, so that's first and foremost. Second of all, they have a backup quarterback by the name of Cooper Rush, who only went 4-1 last year, while Dak was injured. So I can't say with a great deal of faith that if Dak gets injured this year or is ineffective, Trey Lance is going to be the guy that comes in the game, because you got this back. It's the Brock Purdy thing. This guy went 4-1. He kind of gets first dibs to mess up again. But when I look at Trey Lance, like, I keep hearing people say that he didn't get a fair shot, and I disagree with that. We talked offline. He had the finger injury in preseason, came back, played in the torrential downpour against Chicago, got injured the next week, out for the season. Brock Purdy came in. The rest is history. But when I look at Trey Lance, since high school, he's thrown exactly 420 passes. Not, including preseason and all that, but including like actual game action. So in college, he had a total of 318 passes. So 2020, which was his last year before he got drafted in 2021, he played one game. He went 15 of 30, 2 touchdowns and an interception. And this is at the FCS level, by the way. So San Francisco, did the Reed Richards and just reached over everything to get him anyway. So
Fantastic.
Yeah. So then, like I said, remember that number now: 318 passes in college. I said a total of 420, meaning he only has 102 passes in his NFL career. And with that being said, he's 56 of 102, which gives us, you ready for this Anthony Richardson number? 54.9% completion percentage, and he started 4 games. He has 5 touchdowns and 3 picks, but this is the kicker. I'll give you one guess. What do you think his QBR is? And of course, QBR
Scale
is
0 to 100.
Yep, scale 0 to 100. What's his QBR?
52.6.
So, interesting you would say that because 50 is considered to be average. Like 75 is when you get into that Pro Bowl range, like your Aaron Rodgers and people like that. Trey Lance's quarterback rating 34.2. So, don't tell me he didn't get a fair shot. I'll tell you he didn't take advantage of opportunity.
I think
not that it was very much. Not that it was very much opportunity, but
it was limited opportunity. I think I don't want to use the word blame, but I think as we assess it here, a couple of years after the draft, you look at it in the sense that San Francisco felt like Jimmy G didn't provide them this secondary dynamic quarterback play. He gave you your standard run of the mill quarterback play, 235 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, maybe no turnovers, every once in a while. Just he gave you slow and steady wins the race. You run the ball, different variations. I mean, hell, you got a wide receiver taking jet sweeps. As there's a Debo package on Madden when you play with the 49ers playbook. Like they literally they had all the pieces in place. And Trey Lance they thought was going to be that dynamic player. The problem that I have with the 49ers organization is that Jimmy G had you in position to win a Super Bowl. And yes, he should have made those plays. He should have made better passes. I think it's like a 3rd and 2 pass to George Kittle that went incomplete. Patrick Mahomes got the ball back. They get the lead. Rest is history. The deep post route to Emmanuel Sanders was just a yard too far. Maybe Emmanuel Sanders, he cuts it a little deeper. He cuts it earlier. He catches that pass. It is what it is. It was an incomplete pass.
Right.
But when they were sitting at the draft and all the pre-draft conversation was, I heard it from multiple pundits who are on ESPN, people who are on Fox, people who are guest stars on podcasts. They were all saying, and I thought most of the people were saying that he went up from 12 to 3 to get Mac Jones. And I'm like, you don't go up from 12 to 3 to get a guy that doesn't fit the quote unquote new quarterback NFL mold.
Right.
He didn't look like Zach Wilson. He didn't move like Trevor Lawrence. He didn't have the arm like Trevor Lawrence. So Mac Jones was not going to be so close to these other two guys that he should go third. I'm like, it didn't make any sense. I'm like,
at best, you're hoping that he could have been Garoppolo.
At best, and you're not going to move heaven and earth to get another guy you already have. Like, if you're going to get somebody different, I personally thought they were going to get Justin Fields because the whole year, the whole college football year, all the way up until the semifinal game, Clemson versus Ohio State, it was Trevor Lawrence was the bona fide number 1. Justin Fields was your number 2 in the draft. They were going to go 1-2, and they were going to have this epic 1-2 battle for their career. Justin Fields got the better of Clemson in that playoff game. So when Zach Wilson made his, sudden rise to fame to get to 2, and San Francisco then traded from 12 to 3, I'm like, oh, they're about to get Justin Fields. I was like, okay, this might be crazy if they get Justin Fields with that skill set, moving around 6'4", 225, 230. Like, okay. Then it was like, oh, no, it's Mac Jones. And we were like, no, it's going to be Trey Lance. I was like, you're making all these moves when you could have just got Justin Fields. Like you said, you mentioned his, Trey Lance's last year in college. Is that one game, the COVID year, I guess his previous year, he only had 1 interception. Then he came out the game that eventually was shortened by COVID that season. And he said he went 50% for his passes at the FCS level. We had just seen Carson Wentz was already going through it. Like the devaluation of Carson Wentz was already happening at that point. So you saw what was happening with some of these FCS quarterbacks. Yes, they need a shot. But in the same sense, it's like you're not playing against the top athletes on the edge, top athletes in the back end. So some of these passes you can get off. You can be late on because you're not playing against a guy like Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn or something like that. So when they took him 3rd, we can run down just a few names of the people that went 4th. Just people who went 4th through what they had 12. Just a few names.
Yeah, 4 through 12.
Michael Parsons went after that. Kyle Pitts went after Trey Lance. Patrick Surtain, Jamar Chase, Penny Sewell, Devontae Smith,
Jalen
these
Waddle.
Jalen Waddle. These are all names that went after Trey Lance. And every one of those players would have easily fit into San Francisco's scheme because they were a good team that just moved up to 3. They didn't need the quarterback at 3. They just happened to move up to 3. They could have gotten anyone. They could have waited at 12 and got up to 6.
And Fields went 11.
And Fields went 11. So you could have stayed at 12. And then
you could have moved
Fields
up one
like
spot.
8, you could have moved up one spot, or you could have moved from 12. Let me think. Who was that? So you had Dallas as a good team. They probably would have moved down because they were like, we're going to get our guy. We move up or whatever. Because Dallas was one of those teams that just happened to have a spot there. You make a couple of good trades here and there. Philly was the same way. Philly was a good team. They happened to have another team's spot. So there's a lot of good teams in the top 10 that didn't need quarterbacks. Carolina wasn't taking a quarterback. Denver wasn't taking a quarterback. So they could have easily stayed at 12, moved up to 9, and gotten Justin Fields. So that's my whole thing. Like, I never understood the move from the beginning. So I'm not going to say it's the worst move because it didn't hamper the team. If a team that's kind of, perpetually just a poor performing team after a bad trade, like Detroit probably would have fallen apart. Carolina, like they would have fired a bunch of people. The Giants would have fired a bunch of people. Atlanta probably would have fired a bunch of teams. Like some of these Houston, some of these other teams that they would have made a move like that to give up 3 first-round picks to go from 12 to 3, and the guy that they got at 3 didn't play. It could have just completely taken the bottom out from their entire organization. But San Francisco isn't one of those organizations. That's why I don't consider it as detrimental as people see with this hyperbolic analysis of it's like, oh, it's the worst draft pick of all time. Like, nah, it just didn't work out. It didn't hurt the team. It just didn't work out.
So I was looking at this and I was just thinking about it, as we were talking offline. If you put mostly anybody that we just named in that situation, even if you keep Jimmy G, you probably still end up where you were because they went to the NFC Championship game where Tart dropped the interception against the Rams. They went to the NFC Championship game last year, with Brock Purdy. So with the elbow, the UCL. So when you look at it, I'm like, okay, so let's say they would have drafted Jamar Chase. Like put him next to Debo, put him with Ayuk and Kittle. And the 49ers are, first of all, even with all that, they're a run-first team. So, like,
you got to have 7, 8 guys near the box.
You ain't stopping no play action against that team.
Yeah, you're not. You can't go man up. Like you can't go man to man with Jamar Chase out of the slot.
Yeah, if you get Jalen Waddle, it's basically Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, except for Waddle is the Tyreek Hill in this situation. You know what I mean? If you get Micah Parsons, your defense goes from top 3 or 4 in the league to, no kidding, like
that's
one of the best defenses ever. You know what I mean? You got that.
You're gonna double team.
Yeah.
Who you go focus on? The linebacker core is ridiculous with Greenlaw and Warner, and then you have both on one side, Michael Parsons on the other side. It's like you can't run a
mess that up
in either direction.
Then if you get Devontae Smith, you know what I mean? Same thing, except for he going to take the top off. Jamar Chase will take the top off as well. But Devontae Smith will take the top off. And you still got Ayuk and Debo underneath with Kittle lurking around somewhere. So like basically, like even with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hold on, you forgot Kyle Pitts. Now imagine a running team that goes 2 and 3 tight ends, and 2 of them are George Kittle and Kyle Pitts in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Literally San Francisco. So like this is the thing, right? If they get Micah Parsons, they're one of the best defenses of all time. If they grab some of these dudes that we just said on offense, they're probably averaging 33 points a game or something like that. They're like basically how we look at Philly from last season. They be doing it a different way, but the offense would be that
lethal. They're going up 14-0, 14-3 in their first couple possessions.
They're playing Tecmo Bowl on you.
10 out of 17 weeks, they're going to be up 2 possessions early. early
Yeah.
every game. So now you got teams like Arizona, you play them twice a year. LA, you play, and now they're throwing the ball, and now they have to block Bosa and Parsons
Yeah. So you
or
would
try to
think
run up the middle. Like it would
so
have been
by
it would have
so
been a
by
cheat code.
drafting Trey Lance, you would think that Jim Harbaugh was still the coach, and they were trying to recreate Kaepernick. Is the only thing that would have made sense in that scenario. But Kyle Shanahan, Trey Lance isn't a Kyle Shanahan quarterback. Like, you ever see a dude, say every girl that you see him with, saying like they the same height, same hairstyle, same build. Like he's got a type, like Kyle Shanahan has a type. And Trey Lance is not that type. So I don't know if he wanted somebody else and somebody overrode him and vetoed what he wanted.
I
You
think he
know,
wanted Trey Lance. I think that I don't. I think you have to have a certain level of arrogance to succeed in any organization in the world. The Air Force, Microsoft, Popeyes, like the police department, wherever you work, you have to have a certain level of self awareness with a little bit of ego to where you look. I'm going to compete and I'm going to win. Like you have to have that confidence and that I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch felt like they had that confidence because if you looked at their team, look at all these teams who have these quarterbacks that they pay a lot of money to, like Dallas. Dallas hasn't been to an NFC championship game in like 25 years, and they're constantly loaded with talent. Defensively, offensively, always loaded.
27
Uh,
years.
you got the Baltimore Ravens, always stacked, stacked good team. Indianapolis those years with Peyton. So you have all these teams that are just essentially paying into their teams and they're stacking the teams up. New Orleans, another team that was always stacked defensively, and they weren't getting to Super Bowls and NFC championships. In San Francisco, like, yo, we're getting to Super Bowls, and I don't even think we're our best version of ourselves yet. Watch what I can do when I get this guy that none of you really heard of other than some YouTube highlights. Watch what I do to the league when I get this guy. And I think that might have clouded his judgment because I'm like, yo, you could have got Fields and done the same thing. Or you could have been like, I'm gonna keep Garoppolo and I'm gonna recreate the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense, but I have offensive weapons. He already had Debo, he already had Ayuk, he had George Kittle. They had a good run game. They had Mostert and guys like that. They
Elijah
already had
Mitchell. Mhm.
Elijah Mitchell. They had the run scheme that his dad, made famous out of Denver. His dad is an advisor to him on the team. So it's like you had everything you need offensively. You could have just shut it down. You could have held teams to 14 to 16 points every single week
And
if
they
you
had a
would have picked
favorable division.
easy 6 wins. Your wins are easy. You're already in Sean McVay's head because you beat him every time. Arizona's always a shell of themselves. And Seattle was, granted, I think they had Russ one year, but they were in turmoil because Russ, I won't say he thought he was better than he was, but there was a disconnect there. Defense it just does something to a fan base. Imagine you go to a football game and like my son plays offense for his high school football team. If the other team is shutting that down, where's my entertainment? I have no offensive entertainment. I'm disgruntled. I'm cursing the coaches, wondering why they don't go to the wide side of the field because the defense is shutting it down. We get it. Offense is going to make it pop. They're going to get a play. Someone's going to miss a tackle. Like you can miss one tackle and it's lights out. But if
Right.
you're gang tackling every play and it's like it looks like the offensive line's not blocking because the defense is so good, that is so frustrating, so demoralizing, even at the NFL level. He could have had that. And I think he went offense when it was like you could have bolstered the hell out of your defense with
Mhm.
those picks going forward and the 12th overall pick in that draft.
And then even last year, they went out and got McCaffrey. So they just like got a dumb spoil of riches over there in the Bay. So that's where like when I look back at it, it's hard to like. So it's obviously two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. So I can look at San Francisco and say, hey, why did they do that? But I'm like, hey, y'all still on the doorstep too. So, this isn't a situation where the Saints, I know you wanted to get there. The Saints and Ricky Williams, this isn't that situation. This isn't Washington and RG3. Like just trading your whole process or whatever you want to call it just to end up with this one guy. And then when it doesn't work out, because once RG3 didn't work out, Washington was left holding the bag. Like, luckily they had drafted Kirk Cousins, but
which
you
at the
know,
time looked like a strange move. 'Cause, like I remember watching that draft, thinking like they got a quarterback they traded up for in the first round, and they got another guy in the fourth round.
yeah, and,
But
and it's crazy because as a Washington fan, I remember arguing with people because I didn't want RG3. I was like, yo, let's trade down, get a lineman, get some extra picks, pick up Kirk Cousins in the third round. And then it became a joke because like I wasn't a big Russell Wilson fan. So it became like a whole like, why does 2-5 hate the black quarterbacks? You know what I mean? It was like that was like a thing, you know what I mean? Because I was like, no, I want Kirk Cousins because I watched him in
I
college.
didn't realize how small RG3 was until he suited up with that number 10 for Washington. I was like, he looked big at Baylor.
Yeah, he
He looked
did.
big in those track photos when he
Yeah,
was
I saw
doing
him
like
in
the track
person. I
meet.
watched him against Colorado. He looked big in person. And
He looked big, and then I seen him line up. I was like, "Yo, he looks way like." Because Andrew Luck got drafted that same year, and I remember watching Andrew Luck behind his line. I'm like, "Oh, he fits. He
yeah,
looks. He looks like he looks like an offensive guard that plays quarterback." Whereas RG3 looked like a slot wide receiver, and I was
but but
like, "Yo, he looks
Washington
small."
but Washington had more issues than just needing a quarterback. So when it didn't work out with him, everything else got exposed because when you do have a quarterback that can make plays with his legs and all that, it masks a lot of things. So I guess that's what San Francisco was maybe looking for was to mask some other weaknesses. But when you look at Kirk
I don't
Cousins,
think they had any. I
I
think they
don't.
just had I think they had a person. Maybe it was a
I think they
personality thing.
overreacted to losing the Super Bowl. They just
And I don't
overreacted.
think, and I never see, like I say this about a boy Brandon Miller in Charlotte. I've never seen Jimmy G show any emotion other than smiling.
Yeah.
Every time you got the camera in Jimmy G, he's smiling. Even when he was literally, now think about this, and this is something that like,
Well, I mean, yeah, if you got Kendra Lust waiting for you, you be smiling too.
listen, everybody's getting one of these porn stars apparently, but Jimmy G was literally on the side field throwing passes to like a quarterback coach while practice is going on. He's out there, no pads, just in a shirt last season, just out there like, okay, y'all don't want me, but I'm here in San Francisco gear, just throwing passes when they're trying to mold Trey Lance into the starter. And I'm pretty sure they had Brock Purdy on the team, and then they had somebody else. But literally, Jimmy G was off in the side field, just throwing passes at practice. They didn't give him a playbook. They literally didn't give him a playbook. So if you think about all of that stuff, if that would have happened in a different organization, I guess it's a testament to Kyle Shanahan's ability to kind of galvanize people and John Lynch's ability to be leaders, because that type of stuff should have tore the locker room apart. Not having not having Trey ready when you gave up picks, and you're ruining, like, some of these guys in the middle of their prime, they're gonna get paid. Debo Samuel's trying to get his money for it. Warner, like, you got a lot of guys in their prime. It's like, yo, you're out here playing around with this quarterback position, but they're so good on defense that's the mask that covers up whatever they're inept on offense. But they're also really good on offense because the coach and who is
Well,
his dad is an offensive genius. So like it should have torn it apart. But I think Jimmy G's, like, I think it's, I don't know if it's professionalism or just confidence or just the money or just the love of football. I don't know what it is that kept him from not giving any sound bites. Like, think about any other quarterbacks in that situation right now. Maybe Jalen Hurts won't give you any sound bites. Maybe Justin Herbert. Like, if Justin Herbert was on the side field
oh,
throwing,
Joe
and
Burrow gonna say something.
Joe Burrow's going to say something, but it's going to be slick. Lamar is going to say something. It's going to be reckless.
Yeah,
Justin Fields is going to give you a lot of attitude, but like, you got a guy like Philip Rivers would definitely say something.
right.
No. Derek Carr might say something funny because he's kind of cheeky.
Well,
But
the ironic part, as we wrap this up, the ironic part about this, is that they did something stupid, but they still showed that they were correct because Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick
Yeah,
of the draft, and
that's
they
that's
threw.
that's yo. I'm sick of people saying that. You my man. Yo, that they didn't know that he was gonna be good.
No, they didn't.
They
But
didn't.
no,
They
no. But
had
the point is,
they
no.
had
But the
three
point
sixth
is,
round picks and they didn't pick him.
no.
It
But
was
no.
yeah.
But the point is, the point is. You're right. But the point is that like, hey, they thought they were going to go get Trey Lance because hey, we can like coach this dude up, develop him, and then he's just going to take over, and we're not going to miss a beat. Whereas they went and got this seventh rounder, had to play him out of necessity, and like, oh shit, we're a game away from the Super Bowl again. So they were right. They just did the wrong move.
I, I where I say they were right in moving Trey Lance to Dallas right now. Like I think that was a smart move. Is I've been I'm always trying to lecture my kids as much as I can about just living, doing it, make it happen, make the mistake. I got you. I'm gonna support you, but go do the thing. You messed up. You got to own it, and you got to move on. And
Right.
that's an element of our existence. Was like if you mess up, you got to recognize it and move on. Instead of them trying to just, they could have put Purdy on the pup list and given Trey Lance 4 games as a starter with Darnold as a backup to see if this quote unquote experiment worked. But they say, you know what? Brock's ready to go. The doctors cleared him. He looks like he's ready to go. He's zipping around in practice. We don't think an extra 4 weeks is going to get Trey to the point where Brock is already passed. Let's go ahead and make this move. They made it late in the season, the preseason and the off season, whatever
Right.
the case may be. But they acknowledge like, hey, this the best shot for him is to get him out of here. Take whatever you can get. Don't play hardball because that's what they have. They have that leverage because they have so much talent on the team itself. They didn't need to try to get a first round pick because people are like, oh, you should at least recoup what you gave up. You weren't going to get that.
They were going to get that.
You weren't going to get that. Like Shannon Sharp said that months ago when I think this was floated out there, and he said it a lot. He was like, I'm not going to give you $20,000 for a car that I know you're willing to give up for 8. Like,
Right.
why would I give you 20? I
And,
know
and
you can't list it for more than 8. So why would I offer you 20?
and that's why I always liked Minnesota. It's where he's from. Kirk Cousins, is either on his last year or next year is his last year on his contract. So you got your mentor or slash watch him or whatever. You got an offensive coach up there, O'Connell. You know, there you go. Like you got
Former
all the
NFL backup,
Justin Jefferson. You
knows what it's
know,
like to be a backup, big target, Jordan Addison. So
Jordan.
you have targets.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, I don't know what Minnesota's position is, but from everything that I've been reading in the last year, it sounds like when Kirk Cousins' contract is up, he's up.
He's up.
So, so that's why I
If
thought
you
that
couldn't
they would.
offer a fourth, like if he went for a fourth, like to me, if he went for a fourth, I can only imagine that what 3, 4 teams inquired.
Yeah.
Because for you to say yes to a fourth round pick from Dallas, which is probably going to be 125th, 127th pick.
Hell, even Denver could have brought him in. They got the quarterback whisperer, right?
They have an aging quarterback that's I think, but that's the difference. That's the organizational difference because you need a team that has a quarterback that they believe in. Dallas is a good spot because Dallas does believe in Dak. Contrary to what the media wants people to think, so we can just talk good things about Dallas. Like Mike McCarthy has gone 24-10 as a head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That's a good stat. We can talk about that.
I know,
But
but he
first
don't
thing
look like
people
I
say,
want my head coaches to look.
I mean, yeah, he can slim down, get you, some Nutrisystem, holla at Mike Golick, get tight. You can do my workout program, 300 minutes a week. 5 days a week, 60 minutes. That's it. Elliptical, some weight, some core. Get out there. We old. We don't need to be in there long anyway. That's how your muscles start to hurt. But Dallas is a good team, top defense. I mean, Trayvon Diggs got to stop giving him yards, but if he gonna get you an interception every game and a half, then I think you just kind of ride or die with it. That he basically gives you an extra possession every game and a half, and then your running game, your big
Well, he gonna
offensive
get some
line.
action this year because I don't know how many people gonna throw it at Gilmore.
Well, some's got to give, and I think Dallas is one of those good teams, and I think that's why the move makes sense, at least to get Trey in the room with the guy who is not your prototypical like pocket passer. Dak doesn't throw a pretty ball. Dak just you could just tell people the team believes in him.
Right.
And I think Trey needs to go to a place to where the team believes in the quarterback. I think the 49ers, they rock with Purdy, but I think they have the same questions we have. Is he big enough to last the season? I'm not sure if anybody's riding with Sam Darnold because we've all seen, his 60 games.
I see dead people.
I'm seeing Toast out there. I can't believe you said
Yeah.
that while he was mic'd up. But I think Trey going to Dallas works. I'm not sure if it ascends him to being a starter for another team next year who's inevitably going to need a quarterback, because we'll talk about that here when we do our predictions and things of that nature. So I'm not sure if it makes him a starter. I'm not sure what the quarterback coaching situation is in Dallas, where if there's a quarterback whisperer on the staff that can get his feet right. But it gives him an opportunity to get out of San Francisco, not have to answer that question over and over again, and just sit behind Dak and hold the clipboard and learn as much as he can. And
Yep.
Cooper Rush, for that matter.
Yep. And everybody's got questions because we got questions. I got questions about the AFC East. So this is our final division, in our previews, and then we're going to have Super Bowl picks up coming in the next couple of episodes and everything. We're going to walk through the playoffs and all that. But here we are, AFC East, and Mr. Logical is going to tell you why the Dolphins are going to win the East.
You know what? Listen, I've been going back and forth. I've been legitimately going because just one line on each team that makes you think like they could win it all.
Right.
Buffalo has Josh and Stephon.
Yep. And they've done it.
They've done it. They've been the beast of the East for the last couple of years. The New York Jets are Green Bay East. They made a lot of moves. Miami has so much speed offensively.
San Francisco should have got Aaron Rodgers.
They were going to get Phillip Rivers. Come on. And then they got a young defensive end to go opposite of Bradley Chubb, and then you throw in with Ramsey whenever he comes back. Mike McDaniel seems to be a very competent, confident, free living coach. Tua's getting feisty. I'll get into that.
Yeah, and you don't want to get in that cage with Ryan Clark, though. He better chill.
And just New England is they got Bill Belichick. It's kind of the Pittsburgh Mike Tomlin thing. Like I said, I know I picked Pittsburgh to finish fourth. That's because I just think the quarterback just won't be able to make the plays, and they'll lose a couple of games 20-17 because he just can't get the touchdown drive or he can't get the field goal drive.
And that's crazy.
And I think that's going to happen in a couple of these games as well.
Every team in this division could have a top 10 to 12-ish defense.
Yes.
So that makes it even tougher because usually when you look at these divisions, like when we look at the AFC North, looking at Pittsburgh, you're like, hey, the defense is going to carry the day for them. Like, hey, what's Joe Burrow going to do in Cincinnati? Or you look at Denver. Hey, can Denver's offense match their defense? Or, hey, can Staley actually get his defensive reputation to show on his defense? But when I look at the AFC East, it's like, hold up. So all these teams have defenses.
Top 10. That could be top 10. Legitimately top 10 defenses.
So I'm struggling. So just for the sake of conversation and for the sake of holding my own feet to the fire, I'm gonna pick Buffalo to win the division. But I'm really so this
is an ironic, easy, tough pick. It's like easy because they've done it, but it's still tough because you want to believe in other teams just
So
because
I wanted to
all
believe
the
in
flair.
Miami. I wanted to believe in Miami because, obviously Tua has to stay on the field. They were 7-4 when he played last year. They beat Buffalo with him last year. And then the second time they played Buffalo with him, it went down to the wire. And then, of course, the playoff game without Tua. We talked about Mike McDaniel and the timeout situation and all that stuff.
Yo,
But the
blew my
problem
mind.
the problem that I see with Miami is that I did the one thing I shouldn't have did. I looked at their schedule. So weeks 1 through 4 at the Chargers, at Foxborough, Denver, at Buffalo. Who does this? So that's first of all. Then weeks 7 through 9 at Philly, the rematch
Tough.
with the Patriots,
Tough.
Kansas City.
Tough.
And then you're thinking like, okay, they got to come down the stretch. Nope. They get down the stretch. Weeks 15 through 18. Jets, Dallas, at Baltimore, close with Buffalo. Can't do it with Miami. Like I wanted to, but I just can't do it.
That's tough. That's tough. It's tough because there's this everyone's trepidation is that Tua's going to get hurt.
Right.
His second concussion when the defensive lineman for Cincinnati pulled him down by, I think it was either the warmer or his waist, like the hand warmer. He had something that had some leverage on it. That would have. I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll give him 215 to ish, about 6 foot, 6'1", 215. That's pretty solid size grown man, but you're being pulled down by a 300-pound defensive lineman.
No chance.
No chance.
Yeah.
But if that was Justin Herbert, it would have probably been the same thing just because of the way that this guy was literally on the ground.
Right.
Pulling him down to the ground. Like he wasn't pulling him on top of himself. He was pulling him like it was a weird angle. So anyone would have been in that situation.
Well, it was a freak.
Would have bounced their head off the ground.
It was a freak injury.
The week before with the back giving out.
That's what I was about to say. You could make the argument he shouldn't even have been playing.
Yeah. So like that's one element to it. So he doesn't have a strong arm. So naturally the play calling is get the ball out quick. He has two of the fastest wide receivers in football on his team who make catches in traffic. They're not just go route guys. Too. Nice running backs with the same. I think Raheem Mostert a few years back clocked himself at like 22 miles an hour in a game. Achane was injured, so they
got Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson, another speedster. Just that San Francisco, San Francisco on South Beach kind of situation with Mike McDaniels with his relationship with Kyle Shanahan that went from Cleveland all the way up to San Francisco. Now he got his own gig down in Miami.
Well, before
you want to get the ball out quick, so he probably shouldn't take that many hits, especially now they know how susceptible he is to the concussion. Right. It's like, let's really get this ball out quicker. Let's get the ball to flat to these speedy running backs and wide receivers and just let you win MVP off of rack yards.
Well, looking back at it, before he got hurt, they had beat the Patriots, the Bills, and the Ravens to start out 3-0 last year, and Tyreek Hill was on his way to becoming a part of the MVP conversation. And there were legit talks of, is he going to break Calvin Johnson's regular, his receiving yards in the season, that Cooper Kupp almost broke the year before. So like Miami has a lot to like about them. And like you mentioned, they brought in Jalen Ramsey, which I think is one of the underrated quiet signings. Like people made a big deal of it at the time, but he's been injured. So, it's kind of, I think, under the radar now. So Miami still has a chance. They just got the schedule. The good news
he's
is
one of those guys that if you like, for instance, if you have Jalen Ramsey for your last 10 games, say he misses the first 7, but he's ready. They hold him out, and then he plays the last 10. He can shut down one half of the field for 10 games.
So what do you do if your quarterback has concussion problems and gets hit too much? What do you do?
I would probably get a guard. I get a couple guards, maybe a fullback, somebody that can keep the defensive lineman off my quarterback.
Yeah, so part of that is you got to run the ball too. So this is the thing. Miami last season, they just got to be willing to run because how many teams are there in the NFL?
32.
They were 31st in rushing attempts last year. You
That
know what I
doesn't
mean?
make any sense. But
And
that doesn't make any sense considering that he came from San Francisco. Yeah, keep going.
then they were 27th in rushing yards per game. So they're not running the ball, and then maybe they're not that effective when they do it. So that's why I say you have to at least do it to keep the defense honest. You know, like you have to make the defense think that you will or can run the ball.
You
You
should
know,
be
just
better at it considering that you have those speedsters on the
on
outside
the outside. Yep.
that can play on the inside. And that's the other thing. You can put like Tyreek Hill is such a good route runner. You can put him in the slot and the defense most defenses don't move their number one corner to the slot because that puts their third guy
Right.
outside the
Except for Bill
numbers.
Belichick.
Bill Belichick will put his number
he'll
one
put
guy
his
on
he'll
your
put his
number two receiver,
right, right.
and then he'll put his 2 and 3 corners or linebackers on your number one guy. So like
Yeah.
that's how he neutralizes that. But if you think back to the Buffalo Kansas City game, Tyreek Hill caught that first pass, like he kind of motioned to the slot, caught it, ran behind Travis Kelce, got down, timeout, and then Travis Kelce did the same thing on the other side. But so Tyreek Hill's willing to go to the slide. Some wide receivers only want to be on the outside because that's where they want to match up.
Yeah.
But having guys like Waddle and Tyreek Hill that can move to the inside, like your play calling just has to be better. Mike McDaniel's game management has to be better because
Definitely.
the last time we saw him in that playoff game, I was screaming
And they lost
at him.
and they
Like,
lost
what are you doing?
Gasecki. They lost Gasecki to New England. So, in the division, and so when I look at New England, we've talked about Mac Jones, what is it, Michael McCorkle Jones? We talked
Yeah,
about him,
McCorkle.
and we don't believe in him, but it's the same thing. He doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers for the Patriots to be successful. He just has to be smart, sound, play within himself. They actually have an offensive play caller now because last year they had Matt Patricia calling the plays while he was
Yo,
also trying to
I
be an offensive
saw
line coach.
I saw one drive. They kept calling like this RPO bubble screen that wasn't working, and Mac was like, "That's the same damn play. Stop calling these damn run plays." It's like they was calling the same play, and it's like I like Mac, um, but he should be in a better situation. When they talked about Peyton Manning, Colin Cowherd said this. I'm pretty sure I mentioned before. Like, you don't want to be the guy that follows the legend. You want to be the guy who follows the guy who followed the legend.
Right.
So you had Tom Brady go to Tampa Bay. You brought in Cam Newton. But Tom Brady won a Super Bowl his first year at Tampa Bay, and then he's essentially in the MVP running. In my personal opinion, I thought he should have got more MVP consideration the couple of years after the Super Bowl because he had nearly, I think he had 40 touchdowns, over 5,000 yards. It's like, why is Aaron Rodgers the only one getting consideration for MVPs? I thought Tom Brady played his ass off in those 2 years. So New England fans are watching Tom Brady still play at an elite level, and then Matt comes in. So he never really got to follow the guy who followed the legend because
Right.
the
Right.
legend continued to be legendary. So now that Tom's gone and maybe Tampa Bay is going to be terrible, the New England fans might come back and be like, you know what? All right, Mac, we're with you now. We were watching Tom. We were hoping maybe he came back to us. He retired, decided to stay down in Miami, whatever the case may be. All right, Mac, we're with you. We got your offensive coordinator. Bill Belichick is probably like, you know what? Go for it. Let Mac cook. But they don't have the weapons. They went out, got the journeyman Juju Smith Schuster. Not a number one guy. He hasn't been a number one guy ever. He was always
Lost
number two to
Jacoby
Antonio
Myers.
Brown. Lost Jacoby Myers. I mean, he won't do any more laterals.
So here's a question for you. So when you got a young quarterback and a limited quarterback, what should you do on offense?
I think you should run the ball.
You should run the ball. And you know why? Because when we think about the Patriots, see, this is where numbers gets us in trouble. Because when we think about the Patriots, we think of the Patriots as a running team. Ramondre Stevenson, they had Damian Harris, so we think of the Patriots as a run team. But they were 19th in rushing attempts and 24th in rushing yards per game. So maybe the Patriots weren't running the ball as much as we thought they were, or they just wasn't that effective at it. So
No,
now
they probably try to pass on first down and it'd be incomplete because they have a defensive coordinator calling plays. So then when they know you're not going to throw another pass on second down, and they load the box up
So
and they
this
try
is
to run
where
into this box, and it's like nothing you can do about it.
so this is where having Bill O'Brien could help, because now that offensive game plan should have some cohesiveness, because I'm sure there were times where I was watching the Patriot game last year where there might be a play that worked, but then you didn't see it for like a while or another
For
quarter, or you
weeks.
might not see it and you know what I mean. So there was no cohesiveness, so that should help them right off top. You got Zeke, now for the goal line, short yardage
Yo,
situations.
Zeke looks like I saw a video of him walking. I know he wears a lot of layers when he comes. I thought he was a guard. He looked like, because I looked when he was coming, like he was walking down the stairs, and he was like, "Oh, you guys got a nice turf here." He said something like that, and I looked, I was like 15. I'm like, "Oh, that's Zeke." I was like, but I know he does wear a lot of layers. I think
Right,
that's
right,
like he
right.
wears like the hoodie. He probably has, but he looks pretty solid. Like he looks like a pretty big dude.
Yeah, so the good news for New England is that, they did finish eighth in defensive yards per game, so giving up the yards. They were third. They had the third most sacks in the league last year. So, they got some positives going for them. But then I looked at their schedule. This whole division, like, they didn't get no favors, because that's the good news for the Dolphins that we were talking about last time, because they all play the same teams. But
Yeah,
it's just that whole thing about the order and like the back to back and all that stuff. So weeks 1 through 5, Philly, Miami, at the Metropolitans, at Dallas, and the Saints. Luckily, it's not in the House of Horrors. Then they get like somewhat of a relief until week 12. And then weeks 12 through the end of the season, they go back to East Rutherford for the Giants, play the Chargers, go to Pittsburgh, back home for Kansas City. From Kansas City, they go to Mile High, to Buffalo, and then they come back home to finish up with the Metropolitans. So first of all, who scheduled them for at Pittsburgh, come home from Kansas City, go to Denver, go to Buffalo? Who scheduled that?
yo, they play the NFC East and the AFC West. Like how did the NFL say, you know what? We're going to make one division play. The NFC East got 3 teams in the playoffs last year.
I know.
And
Almost
then
4 if Ron Rivera would have paid attention to his record.
I mean, mathematically,
No, if they won, they were in. It was that simple.
you can't get you can't get all 4 in, can you? It would have been crazy, but
Yeah, it
all
would have been
4
crazy.
teams,
Yeah, they finished. They were
it
eight,
just would have
7,
taken
and
a
1.
bunch of different tiebreakers and yada yada yadas and all
Well,
that.
no, they had it. They had it because like Detroit and all them, if they would have lost one more game, all Washington needed to do was beat Cleveland. And they lost that game. So that's how the Detroit, Seattle, Green Bay thing came to be in the final week. Because if Washington would have won that game
They
and
would
they
have
beat
been.
Dallas, they would have been in.
That's
Besides the
crazy.
fact that
So
Ron Rivera started he started Carson Wentz that game too, but that's a whole other story. But back to the AFC East. So the Patriots, when they held teams to less than 20 points last year, they were 7-0. So if teams scored 20, they went 1-9. That
because
just
they don't have the skill position players to win shootouts. They don't have the offensive scheme, because at some point, these guys are world class athletes at the wide receiver position, running back position. Yes, everybody's not going to be Tyreek Hill. Everyone's not going to have the catch ratings of DeAndre Hopkins. But these guys are like, they're professionals, but they just don't I don't think they have the scheme to get in the shootouts. I'm not sure if New England is playing a game, excuse me, and it's 34-30, and they got the ball and they get a touchdown and they win the game 37-34. It just their personnel groupings aren't wired for such a thing, nor do I think their philosophy fits that.
And then
so that's why if you get the jump on them, you probably can hold them down, because they're not, their team isn't designed, and it never really has been, even with Tom Brady.
Yeah, we were talking about it. And then we were talking about it. If Mac Jones gets hurt, they cut all the other quarterbacks today.
They got no other quarterbacks.
So my guy Bailey is out of there. Malik the Future Cunningham is out of there. You know what I mean? So when I look at the Patriots, though, they still have Kendrick Bourne, decent little receiver. They got Kayshon Boutte, from LSU, who was supposed to be the next great thing, fell all the way to the 5th round. They got Devontae Parker, who I thought would be pretty good coming out of college, but he hasn't been pretty good.
Hasn't panned out yet.
They got Gesicki from Miami, and they got Hunter Henry still, which Hunter Henry's a pretty good tight end, but so
they haven't really utilized him. I remember when they signed him and Jonnu Smith that one off season with Bill Belichick spent like $200 million, and I thought that was going to be the turnaround, and it never really came to fruition, because like you say, you can have all these players, but if the coach scheme doesn't match the player's skill set, it's not going to marry.
So that's why you gotta hope, and that's why you gotta hope that having Bill O'Brien in there, he's coached under Belichick before, so like there's not much of an adjustment as far as the expectation. You just have to get Mac Jones on board, which I'm sure Mac Jones is just happy to have an offensive coordinator again.
And there's a respect factor. I think Bill respects the two Bills respect each other,
right,
to the point where Bill will just handle the defense. He'll just be in the defensive huddles and let Bill O'Brien. But it's going to be tough. Like, you saw after the first 4 weeks, so Philly, Miami, Jets, Cowboys is like, that's a tough run.
So the key for the Jetropolitans to win this division is that they just got to get through week 6. If they could get through week 6, 4-2, maybe 3-3, they should feel pretty good about the rest of their season, because they, Monday night against Buffalo, they go to Dallas, New England, Kansas City at home. Both of those are at home. They go to Mile High, and they play Philly. So if they can just get through those 6 games, not 2-4 or 1-5, they should feel pretty good about the rest of their season and how the schedule breaks out.
The issue that I see rearing its head for the Jets is something that, living up in this area, you're kind of familiar with the media and and then when people talk about the New York media, it's not that it's tough to deal with New York. It's just so much. It's just they're not, they're not your friends.
They're bold in your face.
They're in your face. It's just a very East Coast, Northeast bravado. Like, no one's going to hold back. If Aaron Rodgers thinks it up, the back of page 6 is going to have some catchy clickbait, and it's going to have his stats, and it's going to be a picture of him with his head down, maybe upset. They don't care. They're going to do the most, and that's the difference.
Yeah, most people respect their expectations. Most people respect. If Patrick Mahomes has a bad game, that dude in Kansas City is going to be like, "So, Pat, what did you see out there? Was it something that the defense did?" And he's going to get the chance to elaborate and answer that question. Yeah, if Aaron Rodgers come out here on Monday night, if Aaron Rodgers comes out here and lays an egg on Monday night, they going to say, "Why you ain't beat Buffalo?"
You were brought here to win championships. Do you think your championship chances are gone now? You're 0-1. Like, that's the question you're going to get.
You came here, Patrick Ewing, and left John Starks.
Yeah, because Patrick Mahomes threw 3 picks against Denver, and they still won the game. If you throw 3 picks in New York City, you're gonna have it. That's why Zach Wilson was like a robot at the podium, because it was like, there's nothing I can say or do, when good, bad, or indifferent. Nick Wright said this on First Things First, and like I don't like to get my points from them, but sometimes you get a good one and you run with it. His knock on the Jets and what he feels about the Jets, and I think the same way, is that they're gonna have potentially a 10-7 year or 11-6,
Yeah, I got him 10-7. Yep.
and that's gonna be their best year, and like you said, over a decade, and it won't be good enough, and people are gonna get fired. And he was like, no company would look at their upcoming year and be like, yo, this is our best year we've had in a decade, and get rid of people. He's like, the Jets are potentially going to do that. He's like, if they go 10-7 and make the playoffs and they make a good run, then people's jobs might be safe. But if you go 10-7 and you don't make the playoffs, it's gonna be like, well, is Solid the right guy for the job? Is Nathaniel Hackett going to take over? So I think there's a lot of, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, because he has Hall of Fame credentials and top tier talent, that people think it's just apples for apples. Take Zach Wilson out, put Aaron Rodgers in, win more games. Well, some of those games, Aaron might not throw that route because he don't want to get a tipped interception, and maybe he gets strip sacked,
Yeah, he will throw it out of
or
bounds.
he throws it out of bounds. They have to punt, and the punt gets returned for a touchdown because someone's out of position. So, case in point, in his last NFC Championship game in Green Bay, third down would have been an easy throw to like Tanya or Aaron Jones. It gets deflected. They punt. San Francisco blocks it, returns it for a touchdown. They win the game. I mean, so it's just like those kind of games, like those kind of situations could happen, even with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. It's not a matter of just swapping out one guy, putting another guy, and then you just automatically win a few more games, because they won a lot of games and they were a top defense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if it was a video game, you still Aaron Rodgers in, it's all good to go. But you got continuity. Is he going to mesh with Gary Wilson? Is Lazard going to get more targets? Is Wilson going to get more targets? Are they going to give the ball to Delvin Cook? They have an embarrassment of riches, but is it all going to work together, considering that it didn't start until August?
And you still got to fit his boy Randall Cobb in there too, unless he got cut and I missed it today. And
Randall about to go ahead and he's going to be a healthy scratch wide receivers coach. Just go get that second career started.
So, like you said, their defense. Jets gave up the fourth fewest points last season. And fourth lowest yards per game. They actually started 6-4, even with Zach Wilson and Mike White, sharing duties. But then, they had a 6-game losing streak, including, you brought up the punt return. I got to bring up the punt return against New England, where the ref missed the penalty, but, whatever. But
the unnecessary block in the back.
Yeah,
those are the worst ones. Those are the worst ones.
So 6 of their 10 losses last year, they went 7-10. 6 of their 10 losses were one-score games. So you would hope that in that situation, because year to year, those tend to reverse themselves. Like we talked about the Vikings and how they did well in the one-score games.
They might be 8-9 this year if they rest on that whole one-score thing. Yeah,
right. So now you would hope or think that for the Paladins that this would switch around and like maybe they go 4-1 or 4-2 in these close games this year, which will turn their record around. But to Mr. Logical's point, because he was trying to tell me, I don't know if y'all were here for the first couple of episodes or whatever, but he was trying to tell me that Daniel Jones was this top 10 quarterback. And one of the fights that we had was Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones. Is he really better than Aaron Rodgers? Like, no, he's not better than Aaron Rodgers, but maybe he had a better season. So he did, in fact, because as I went back through my numbers here, Aaron Rodgers had the 6th worst QBR in the league last year. Now granted that, he did lose Devontae Adams, so you would like to think that getting some better receivers will help that out, but we'll see, but Aaron Rodgers is also that dude where he's got what I like to call Kobe Bryant syndrome, where, I remember there was a reporter that asked Kobe if he was going to get his teammates involved, and Kobe said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, You want me to pass it to Sasha Medvedenko? You know what I mean? Aaron Rodgers is like that. You know, the first time one of these receivers that he doesn't know drops a pass, runs the wrong route, the timing is off. You know, he's going to sulk and he ain't going to give that ball back for quite some time.
I saw a game, Marquez Valdez-Scantling against Chicago. He ran like a seam route or a deep post route. It was him, the grass, and the goalpost. Dropped it. Aaron's face, instead of being like, we missed one, it was, you dropped it.
You son of a bitch.
You ruined my touchdown to interception ratio because there was nothing in front of him. It just was the goalpost and the audience. That was it. So Aaron didn't throw the ball for the rest of the game.
He came over there with that energy. He came over there. I'm a cop, you idiot. You know, like, but yo, the Jets also had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year last year. So, you know, you brought up Garrett Wilson. They had Sauce Gardner on the defensive side, rookie of the year. They got another shutdown corner on the other side. So defense, I think, is good to go. You know, but one of the underrated pickups, we'll see how it plays out. But I know Mr. Logical's not a fan of this guy. But, you know, Aaron Rodgers also has Mecole Hardman. You know, so, you know,
he doesn't make plays. It just does not look like, it just does not. I don't know if he's on the field or not. Isaiah Pacheco for Kansas City last year, you remember plays he made in the Super Bowl. You remember plays he's made throughout the season last year. And I'm not calling him out just because he's from Jersey. Shout out to Millville. But you remember him making plays. You remember Tony making plays. You remember Sky Moore making plays. How many people caught touchdowns? Okay, Patrick Mahomes threw one to Kelsey, Sky Moore, and Tony in the Super Bowl. And then Pacheco ran one in. Then they had the
Moore had a second touchdown, maybe. Or no. Tony Bolton had the long punt return.
He had the long punt return.
Yeah.
And that set up the Sky Moore touchdown.
Yeah.
So then the Bolton had the touchdown, the fumble return.
Should have had
we could run this information down because they make plays in these big moments. Think about Mecole Hardman and all the time that he's been in all these playoff runs with Kansas City. Can you think of a moment where he had an impact play?
No, I just remember being like, yo, he fast.
I don't know if he's as fast as Tyreek Hill, but I can only imagine if Tyreek Hill runs a 4.2, Mecole Hardman runs a 4.3. Like, it's not like he's running a 4.9 compared to Tyreek. It's like, you're equally as fast as him. Tyreek goes to Miami. I'm like, okay, are you going to fill that void? And he just doesn't make those plays. And I think Aaron's going to probably see the same thing. It's like, this dude's not a playmaker.
Well, we're going to see. And then, you know, I remember once upon a time last season, I thought Breece Hall was going to carry me to the fantasy football championship. You know, and then he got hurt. You know what I mean? But he's coming back. And oh, by the way, they went and got my guy, Dalvin Cook. You know, so just another insurance policy. See you Monday night or Sunday night, LSU. You know, but yeah, so like I like the Jets. I like their team. I like the way that they're constructed. They just got to get through that first stretch of the schedule. If they can get through that, like I said, if they can get through that, even if it's 3-3, if they can get through that 3-3, I think they'll be fine.
I think the expectations are too high, and this is an odd stat. This is from a couple of years ago or last season, excuse me. Aaron Rodgers, as of with this time with Green Bay, he was like 3-45 in his career if he was in the fourth quarter by 10 plus points.
Yeah, he's a front runner.
Doesn't come back. Patrick Mahomes has like 6 of those games in his playoff career that he's won, but being down double digits. Not necessarily fourth, but like being down double digits. Kirk Cousins been down double digits late in games and come back. It just seems as if Aaron's talent is supreme. It's a supreme talent, but he's in a new situation. Is he gonna flip a switch to where he's like, you know what? this team believes in me more than Green Bay believed in me in the last few years, hence why they drafted Jordan Love. Is he going to bring that to Florham Park, New Jersey, at the practice facility and on the field and in the film room with these guys and really take them to the height that he is? Because right now, he's an upper echelon NFL quarterback of all time. It's like, I'm going to get you guys to this level with my talent because it feels so good to be one of the best in the world at your job. Can he get people to that? Can he look guys in the face and really believe that I can get you to this level? Like the way people look at Joe Burrow, the way that people used to look at Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Elway, Lamar Jackson, when people didn't believe him and he was a unanimous MVP. Those kind of players are rare. Can he get to that level? Because if he can't, it's going to be a situation where they're 6-11.
Who's coming with me, man? Who's coming with me?
Like who's going to charge this hill with me?
Yeah. So like right now, just looking at this, I said that I had Buffalo winning the division. So I'm gonna go Buffalo, Jersey, Miami, and then New England with the right to flip New England and Miami just off of the schedule if I want to. But Buffalo now, of course, Brian Daboll left, to go take over the Giants head coaching job. He took Mike Kafka with him, who was the quarterback coach. And then Josh Allen decided that he was just going to brain fart all over the field and do whatever he wanted. He still threw for 5,045 yards and 42 touchdowns. He finished third in the MVP voting. But yet, everywhere I look, Buffalo just seems to be a disappointment to a lot of people.
There was a lot of red zone interceptions. Led the league in end zone red interceptions too. They need to run the ball. They should have made a move to get one of these running backs that might have been available. I know the stats are gonna
say you didn't pay attention to what I said earlier. Remember, we talked about the Patriots. We thought the Patriots were the bell cow workhorsing team in this division. Well, I will have you know. I'm gonna let you give. I'm gonna let you get.
Go ahead.
But I will have you know. I will have you know that Buffalo was 8th in rushing yards per game. They were 2nd in yards per carry. Which at 5.1 yards per carry, by the way. And they were 16th in the league in attempts, and they led the division in rushing attempts.
Cool. Now, how many red zone interceptions did Josh Allen throw? They ran the ball a lot. They didn't run it when it counted. They went 3rd and 2 in the playoff game against Miami. He throws a 40-yard bomb. That's what I mean. You can run it a lot. And you can get a lot of yards because Josh Allen scrambles and gets you 18 randomly, or you pop a draw play here and there. And that's where the numbers is like we talk about the EPR bullets. Yeah, we can flip it to make it look like, the FMC rate is this, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. For a whole month, we didn't have this one part. And then 50 parts show up August 1st. And that whole month, we fixed every jet that didn't have that part. Yeah, it looks like we did a lot of work, but really all it was like we were back ordered on one part. It all came in. Finish goes up. So they run the ball from 20 to 20. They run it great. But when it comes down to 3rd and 1 from the 16, they're throwing it. Or they're running with Josh Allen and he's sticking his elbow in there and he's going to end up potentially missing time.
So I know it's the same way that Peyton Manning used to choke games.
Peyton Manning just was one of those guys that just would get in his own way. Like this stuff works for you. The simple works. If you can control the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively, the likelihood of you winning a game is probably I don't know what the sports science mathematical situation
but it goes up exponentially.
It's exponentially higher. Then
I just wanted to get that word off.
If you can't, and you've seen it happen where a running back gets a handoff and all of a sudden, boom, a defensive tackle's in his gut, i.e. like Jerome Bettis in that Colts playoff game with the Steelers. Jerome Bettis doesn't fumble, but you break through and you create that contact right at the mesh point, boom. Now you got a
Right.
fumble. You got this random turnover that wouldn't happen because you're controlling line of scrimmage. Buffalo, they have the talent to overcome the simple stuff that they botch. Like they throw it on 4th and 2 when they should just run it and end up punting it, and then their defense happens to
Well, they brought in.
turnover stop. Von Miller's on the pup list, so he's going to miss the first 4
Yep.
weeks. So maybe
They
you
lost
really
Tremaine
warm up
Edwards.
for 13 games.
You know, they lost Tremaine Edwards. That's
You
gonna
still
be a
got
big loss.
Milano. You still
They
got
still
Jordan
got
Poyer.
Milano. Yep.
So
And
you still have a good back end.
And they
That
brought
a
in.
lot of guys, they tackle well, so they're a good, strong, solid team, and they
And
won 13 games. So
they brought in 2 new running backs. You know, they brought in Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. So, you know, maybe we'll see some of that. You know, James Cook will probably get a bigger role this year, as he should. But I was a big proponent of they should
they
have went and
got
got
his
his
brother.
brother. Yeah, you know, they should have did that. You know, they did get Dalton Kincaid. You know, so I love that pick. You know,
Yeah, but
even though
rookie tight ends don't really
no, I know,
move the needle.
but it's
You
just like
match more Dawson Knox,
yeah, it's just like we talked about with George Kittle and
Kyle
Kyle
Pitts.
Pitts. You know, same concept, not as good, but same concept. You know, they
But
picked
he's
up.
got to be willing to check it down. He's got to be willing
Yeah,
to
you got to be willing
throw
to check
the
it down.
tight end drag route or the tight end curl route or the option right in the middle. He's got to be willing to, like, you know what? I don't need to hit Gabe Davis for this 60-yard bomb
Right.
on first down. I can just throw this simple short check down and see what happens from there.
Then they went and got Taylor Rapp and Leonard Floyd. You know, I think Kaiir Elam is going to be a breakout corner this year. You know, he started to show flashes of that towards the end of last season. So I think their defense will still be, like I mentioned, all the defenses in this division is probably top 10 worthy. You know, Buffalo probably being the best of the bunch, you know, coming out of last year. Maybe the Jets take a leap in front of them this year, but Buffalo will still be right there. You know, it makes me wonder, though. It makes me wonder. The one thing that I do wonder about Buffalo, because I know that Leslie Frazier is gone as the defensive coordinator, and McDermott is going to be taking over, it sounds like, managing the defense. So, we talked about the hot seat a couple of weeks ago. You know, if Buffalo gets to the playoff, loses in the first round, or, you know, gets pushed around like they did against Cincinnati last year, is he one of these panic surprise coaches that we talk about?
I don't think so, because they're going to win 12 or 13 games.
Maybe. I mean, because I'm looking at the schedule. I'm looking at the schedule.
Yeah, they got the AFC West and they have the NFC East, but
well, Monday night
Buffalo is one of those teams that handles himself well against Kansas City. So that's the creme de la creme of the AFC West. I think they match up well with a team like Dallas with their wide receivers because they can match it with their linebacker play, their defense up front, and like you said, Elam and then Poyer. So I think the Buffalo matchup, they don't have a group that's lacking.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White. Yeah.
So they don't have a core, like their defensive backs are top notch, you know, upper echelon players. Their linebacking core is solid. Defensively up front, they're good. Granted, they'll be better with Von Miller, but defensively up front, they're good. They have a defensive head coach. And then offensively, you have Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, Josh Allen. I mean, you just have so much talent that's been playing together for a while, that's been in, you know, big playoff games. Yes, you can't win them all. And it might be another situation where we remember the 90s Buffalo Bills that went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4. It just might not be your time. But I think the fact that they have a talent pool that every other team would definitely want.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like, it's not like, oh, we think their offensive line is terrible. Like, they are solid at every position group you need. They just have to put it together. And it might be a situation like I talked about the Jets. The preseason expectations can't be other people's preseason expectations of your team can't be your driving force. Because they're talking about, like Eric mentioned, you talk about, like, you can't be talking about hoisting the Super Bowl trophy you got to be talking about getting ready for week 1. We got the Jets week 1. Your conversation is, all right, it's preseason. We want to get better every day at practice. And then we want the Jets week 1. We want to start off the season 1-0.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers think he gonna come up in here and take our division.
We want to go into every game 0-0 and leave 1-0. Like just something that like that. You can say whatever you want in the locker room, but you don't need to come out and match the Buffalo Gazette's expectations of the Buffalo Bills. Because like everyone wants to win the Super Bowl. Like you not to say, our goal is the Super Bowl. Obviously, everyone's goal is to win the Super Bowl, except for the Arizona Cardinals.
So week 1, they come to your neck of the woods, and then they should get a slight breather. So weeks 5 through 7, I have my eyes on. I don't think this is Murderer's Row by any means, but it's just some good teams back to back to back. So Jacksonville, the Giants, and then at Foxborough, they could go 3-0 in that stretch. It's just one of those things where that's just some good teams that they're playing. But where it gets interesting is week 9 all the way through the end of the season, because they go, to the scene of the crime at Cincinnati. That's going to be an emotional game. I can't wait for it just to see the psychology part of that game, see how that plays out. They play Denver the next week, rematch with the Jetropolitans at Philly, and then after the bye, go to Arrowhead. Why Kansas City ain't coming to Buffalo? They went to Arrowhead last year, but anyway, Dallas at the Chargers, which is basically like not even a road game because the Chargers don't get any fans anyway. New England, and then they close at Miami. So, I ended up with Buffalo at 11-6. I ended up with the Jets at 10-7. And then I got Miami 9-8, New England 8-9. So that's where I ended up with the AFC East. So Buffalo, Jets, Miami, New England.
I'm gonna go Buffalo, Miami, Jets, New England.
Oh, so you got the Jets in danger of missing the playoffs.
Yes, just because I like what I feel about Buffalo. I think Buffalo's expectations, the media expectations levied on them, I think that put a little pressure on them last year, and they played a little tight because of it. I think the Jets are going to be in that boat to where 4th and 2, analytics will say go for it. 4th and 2 from the 45. You got Aaron Rodgers. He's been running the ball great all day against, Dallas or whoever you're playing against. And Salah's he's going to punt it. And Aaron's going to want to go for it. And it's going to cost him the game. And then in the press conference, I'm like, Aaron, we saw on the sidelines you really want to go for it in that 4th and 2 in the middle of the 4th. Yeah, I don't make those calls.
Yep.
And that's when it happens. That's when it happened with LaFleur in the playoff game when they decided to kick the field goal. They should have gone for it because no matter what, you still needed the ball back.
Right.
So it was like you should have just gone for it. So I agree with them, but that's what he's going to say out loud.
Right.
So that could be as early as week 4 against the Chiefs. They go in that game 1-2. They say they beat New England. They start out 0-2. Most teams don't can make the playoffs starting 0-2, but you go out and you put a whipping on New England. You got momentum. Now you got the Chiefs. You're down 20. You're down 20-14. You battling back and forth. You got Kansas City on the ropes, and it's 4th and 2 from like the 47 or something like that. It's like we should go for it. And so I was gonna be like, now we're gonna punt, play field position. We still got our timeouts, yada yada yada, all the traditional coach stuff. And then they're gonna lose because Mahomes is gonna keep the ball. They're not gonna get it back. They're gonna kick a field goal, lose a game, 23-14. And Aaron's gonna have to answer that question, and then that's gonna start it. Then you got the Broncos the following week. That'll be a win. Then you got the Eagles. You buy the Giants. You got, you both playing essentially at home. So it's just that's the kind of snowball I think that can derail the Jet season. Whereas I think Buffalo's already gone through that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miami's already gone through that.
Well, Buffalo
and New England's definitely gone through that. And I think the Jets have it.
Yeah, Buffalo has the advantage of kind of being under the radar because last year was their year where all the money was on them. This year,
push your chips to the middle of the table
Yeah,
for Buffalo.
I think this
that
year
game.
people are saying, well, hey, until we see somebody beat Kansas City, you got to roll with them. Or,
We
hey,
think the
we
Jets are
saw
going
the
to come in and win
Bengals.
the AFC East.
Yeah, or we saw the Bengals actually go into Arrowhead, get to a Super Bowl, beat Buffalo last year. So now, Bengals, you're on the clock, and Burrow's got to get paid. Like, oh, we gush all over Justin Herbert. So, like, can the Chargers actually win a playoff game this year? And remember when Trevor Lawrence? So Buffalo's kind of like,
They're like
like
7th on the remember this list, or
right. So Buffalo won't
and the
feel it.
Jets have taken over the media cycle for their division.
Right. So Buffalo won't feel it until the actual playoffs start. Like maybe when you get to the playoffs, especially hypothetically, let's just say Buffalo ends up with home field advantage. That's when they get the pressure of, hey, everybody's got to come through Orchard Park, no excuses. If they don't get home field advantage and they're playing on first weekend, once they win that first playoff game and say they match up with Cincinnati or Kansas City that next week, now you get the pressure in that one game setting of, can you win the big game?
The thing I think will help them out is the 6 games they have in division, because there's no gimmies.
Right.
Jacksonville has 1, maybe 2 gimmies, and depends on Tennessee's coaching quarterback situation. And like by around the second time they play them, it could be Will Levis and the offensive coordinator is now the head coach. It could be, so they can have some gimme games.
Right.
Kansas City, Mahomes is 27-3 in division, so everything feels like a gimme game. Nothing feels like overwhelming. And then if you look at the AFC North, that's going to be tough.
Right.
Those teams are going to be battle tested, whoever comes out of there. But Buffalo, Miami, Jets, New England, whoever comes out of AFC East is also going to be battle tested. So when the playoffs come around, it won't be like, like Jacksonville. Jacksonville could potentially slide through the season and silently, just quickly under the radar, end up 13-4 and be the number 1 seed, because they're probably going to get 6 wins in division.
Mhm.
If not 5, 5-1. We'll call it 5-1 to be realistic, but 6-0 is a possibility, because they seem to be the only team in that division that has everything that's going to work this upcoming season. They have the relationship between coach and quarterback, whereas Tennessee doesn't. Then you have Houston bringing a young quarterback, Indianapolis bringing a young quarterback. So Buffalo's going to have that grind of getting all of these teams 6 times in the elements. Miami's the only place that plays warm, but you're going to play cold games at home. You're going to play cold games and at the Jets, cold games in New England.
They don't even play Miami until week 18, so they're not going down to the humidity.
So it's like they have the opportunity to be ready to go. Defensive minded head coach calling the defensive shots. If they're one of these top notch defensive teams, top 2, top 3, sacks, things of that. Like, so if they're playing that hard nosed smash mouth football and they actually run it inside the red zone, they could be a formidable team. But they have to ignore all the other stuff around them the way the
Right.
Jets aren't. The Jets are going to embrace it. The Jets are going to make moves in between games that the newspaper think they should make. They're going to throw the ball more to this person if somebody reports that, Garrett Wilson only got 4 targets last week against New England. And then the next week he's going to get 8 and one's going to get picked off and taken to the house. Because it's going to be one of those situations where they're going to allow the external sources to dictate how they play, because Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers, there's no need. I don't know how much leverage he has as far as respect for each other. I don't know what relationship they have. I don't know if they've had some kind of relationship with those Green Bay, San Francisco playoff battles or regular season battles. So it might be a situation where he treats them like Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, it could be, I don't know, but we'll see. I'm here for it,
He's done it to 2 coaches in a row. Just throwing it out. 2 coaches in a row. One of them won the Super Bowl. One was pretty good. Aaron Rodgers completely dismissed them at some point, and that person never got back in line with Aaron. Like
Right.
they never were on the same wavelength after that. So that could be pretty difficult.
Yeah. So the AFC East and the North, are the threats to get 3 teams in. The West could be a threat if Denver gets their stuff together, but I'm not
Yeah,
too
I'm not
hopeful
on that.
about that. So yeah, so this division, is going to be determining a lot of things, and they all get Kansas City. So, they get a preview, or we get a preview of how they match up with Kansas City, what it looks like. Are there strengths and weaknesses that one of them has against Kansas City that the others don't have?
Yeah,
So
how do they
it's
match up? How did you look against Kansas City? How did we look against Kansas
right.
City?
And then they all play Philly too. So, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Like, this was the wrong year for them to get that draw,
But
especially.
that's a good observation because if you want to measure your team and you're playing the two teams that represented the conferences in the Super Bowl, that's like if you go 2-0 in there, like
Got to boost your confidence.
it has to boost it. It has to. If you go
Yeah.
2-0 against Kansas City and Philadelphia, yeah, that has to give you like
Well,
you'll go to the podium and say something like, "Listen,
especially Buffalo because they play both of them on the road.
yeah." So if you can go into Philly and in the Arrowhead, those are two hostile places to play football.
And I mean, and they won in Arrowhead last season. So, it's not as if they can't do it. They just have to do it, as people would say, they have to do it when it matters.
Matters. Do it when it counts.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. That's our AFC East preview. We brought you from NFC East back to AFC East. Thursday, we're going to have Super Bowl picks, because that's the fun part of the year. We're going to have our playoff pick and potentially our college football national champion. We're going to go back through our early season baseball predictions and see what that's looking like nowadays. So that should be fun. But hey, he is the one and only Mr. Logical. I am your boy 2-5. What I'm saying? Coming from you at all angles and all kinds of ways. Together, we are Sports Reports as ordered.
We're trying to get to 20,000 views. Let's go.
Please
20,000.
like, review, subscribe, share, all of the above. It's all free.
Tell your grandpa about us.
Tell your grandpa about us. I got that salt and pepper going on, what I'm saying? So, what I'm saying? Hey, we'll be back Thursday, 2-5 Daily. Mr. Logical got something coming up for y'all in the next couple weeks. So, you're going to be seeing a lot and hearing a lot more of us, only because we love you. Peace.